What's good, YouTube, and welcome back to the channel. Christian here again with another video, and this time we got Majin Coup here, one of the recent characters added in the DLC2 pack. And now I'm not gonna lie, this character is pretty underwhelming. I mean, his strings are okay, but he takes a lot of damage and his skills kind of suck. He got a regen that barely heals any HP, and he got a trash buff. And my question to Bandai is, why even add a character in DLC and make people pay for it if he's gonna be so trash? Not to mention that they put him at 5 DP, which is a pretty stacked meta. Okay, the 5 DP meta has the Brolys, Super Goku, Super Vegeta, Bojack, characters that can transform, get their health back, characters that have refilling ki constantly, and this character is pretty much worse than Bergamo in my opinion. And that is a huge issue because people were forced to pay money to play this character, and in my opinion Bandai has a responsibility to make him impactful or at least somewhat useful, and they failed at that. And that's the thing about this DLC, right? Like, these characters don't need to be in the game. Like, having them in the game didn't really change anything. In fact, the patch notes were a lot more impactful to the game than the characters were. And that's why this DLC kind of falls flat. It's not necessarily just because the characters are not hype enough, it's because the characters are not impactful enough to the meta and the game, okay? And another problem is, what meta are they actually influencing? Because right now, the game modes available are very simple, and DP battle, which is a more complicated mode, is not really playable like that. Like, people don't like playing it, and they haven't addressed that issue. So characters like Majin Coup, Pansy, and the like really don't have a place to shine, don't have a place to influence the game. And that's why DLCs are falling flat, because there's no creative game modes, and the characters that are being created are not being created creatively enough. But the game mode topic is a topic for another video. Right now we're gonna be focusing on Majin Coup. Okay, so what is the problem with Majin Coup as a DLC character is that, first of all, he takes a lot of damage. So they justify that by having a regen in his kit, but his regen is not as good as, for example, Samasu's or people like that. So then why even have him regen if you're gonna make it not functional? And then, okay, maybe you want to justify having it heal less health, but it has no extra effects on top of that. And what makes it even more frustrating is that we have other examples in the game of creative combinations of effects. For example, we have Bardock with his explosive wave, insta spark. We have I could beat you in 5 seconds, refill ki to max while buffing Goku, and they don't take advantage of stuff like that with the DLC characters. In my opinion, if you're gonna make people pay for characters, then they should be the most creatively built characters in the game. And Majin Coup very easily could have had a snack time that kind of regens and refills ki at the same time. It could have been the first regen ability to refill ki besides sleep, but they didn't do that. They just made it heal very little HP and made Majin Coup kind of like a bland character, which is a shame in my opinion. Now you might say, okay, but that would be busted. That's gonna break the game, having a HP regening ability that refills ki. But in my opinion, it wouldn't, because it just heals less HP and Majin Coup dies very quickly. You'll see in these matches, I have a very hard time beating my opponents. Now these guys are very good players, and Richie here is a very good player, also a viewer of mine, and he is very good with Vegeta here. But Majin Coup, being such a basic character with lack of really good abilities and very squishy at that, just makes it very hard to compete against really good players like Richie here with an actual good character, SS2 Vegeta. And another thing that really frustrates me is that there's examples of other characters that are not that hype that basically got a lot of play because of their kits. They're very useful. For example, Yajirobe, Wheelo, Roshi, Spopovich, like those characters, because they're appropriately valued in their DP tiers and they're giving like good abilities, they get a lot of play and they get hype beyond their anime appearances. Okay, so like nobody was really trying to play Yajirobe like that before the game came out, but because he had that Sensu Bean ability, he got a lot of play. Same with Willow. Like Willow has been largely forgotten in the DBZ community. He was like in one obscure movie early on, but because he was so powerful, basically he saw a lot of play. And a lot of those characters have been toned down over time to put him in a more balanced state. And my thing is, if you're gonna make a DLC character that costs extra money, you kind of want to err on the side of maybe being slightly OP, or at least very useful. And then if they are too OP, then you tone them down. That way they don't get forgotten. That way they're not underwhelming on release. Because as of now, right now, people paid extra money to play this character, and this character is really trash in my opinion. Now, one DLC character that's doing it right here is Daima Goku, and I just had a video about Daima Goku, and I said he's kind of like the main character of Sparking Zero right now, because he's an evolving character and he's going to be influencing the meta shortly after the next DLC. This character just went from being kind of trash to being really good in my opinion. And right here we got Don Coolio himself, top 10 Daima Goku on PS5 right now, fighting me. You're gonna see Daima Goku has a lot of tools, guys. He does good damage, he has good combo strings, he has a 1-bar transformation that gives him after image, a lot of good tools. And then once he gets that next transformation, he's going to be influencing the game, because just like in the first DLC we had Superhero Gohan, 4 DP character, being able to go to 9 DP. We're gonna have Daima Goku giving him competition, and we have Vegeta also giving him competition. So as you see, successful DLC characters are the ones that influence the game in meaningful ways, whereas unsuccessful DLC characters such as Majin KUU and, for example, Pansy, don't influence the game whatsoever. And Bandai could really fix that with just some creative changes to those skill abilities, but for whatever reason they just refuse to do so, even though they have examples in the game where they've done it successfully. It's really frustrating and it makes no sense to me, but we'll see if they ever learn from their mistakes and start adapting some creative changes to the game. Also, changing some of these abilities will also differentiate this game from Tenkaichi 3 by being a little bit more creative with the skill abilities, being more creative with the game modes. Maybe add some game modes that can take advantage of characters such as Majin KUU and Pansy that are not DP battle, because DP battle is largely unsuccessful. So anyways, right here Don Coolio, he backed up and charged. I think he was trying to beam struggle with me, but sadly Majin KUU does not have a beam. He has 2 rushes, 1 unblockable rush, 1 regular rush as his ultimate, and he has a super that comes pretty fast and comes from the sky. Kind of hard to dodge. The best way to dodge it is to block. And here Don Coolio sends me a message saying he was trying to beam clash, but I'm like, bro, I ain't got a beam, so we can't do it. So we just continue with the fight. Now Don Coolio is very good with Daima Goku. Like I said, he got to top 10 on ranked with Daima Goku, and Daima Goku is a good character in my opinion, whereas Majin KUU is kind of like a generic character with bad abilities, and that is a shame. I wish it wasn't like that, but that is what they gave us. Now as far as playing Majin KUU, he's a very basic character. Basically, if you could play characters like Bergamo or any character like that, then you can play characters like Majin KUU. He has a regen, but like I said, it's not very strong, so you kind of want to implement it when you can, because he has no defensive stock moves at that, and he takes a lot of damage, so you kind of need that regen to stay alive. Offensively, he doesn't have any tools really. He has a buff that in my opinion is not worth using, because you kind of want to save that for revenge counters and regen. Another thing I want to mention is that after patch, revenge counter has been nerfed in a shadow way. Of course, they didn't mention it in the patch notes, but I have noticed that the tracking is back to not being as strong as it was. So now you can elevator and dodge revenge counter, or you can even dragon dash to the side and dodge revenge counter. It won't automatically track your position. Also, perception against revenge counter has been buffed, so it comes out quicker, so it's a lot riskier to do a revenge counter. So really they nerfed revenge counter in multiple ways. So my complaint previously about revenge counter influencing the gameplay too much, has been kind of fixed after patch. The only thing is, characters now that don't have any defensive stock moves like Majin Coup here are even more unviable than they were before. And characters that have defensive moves like Explosive Wave are now a lot stronger in comparison. So after the match, Don Cooler sends me a message and asks me if I like the patch. I said I like it, but it's a big change, okay? So every time they patch the game, it feels like a new game, and I have to adapt to it. And because I don't get to play a lot, I know I post videos and stuff, but producing videos takes up the time that I would be kind of practicing the game. So then I only get a couple of matches every day, so it's gonna take me a while to adapt. But once I do, I'll probably figure out how to beat certain things, and I'll probably be making videos about it, okay? So here I'm playing a God Goku, another good player. There's a lot of good Z ranks online while I was trying to play Majin Coup. And I'm not gonna lie, guys, I was getting my ass whooped all morning, okay? And I keep it real 100% on this channel, okay? If I get beat, I get beat, and you guys are gonna see it. And in this case, I lost a lot with Majin Coup. It almost felt like I was playing a 3 DP character instead of a 5 DP character. And you gotta remember, this is a DLC character that people paid money for, okay? And this is a character that's very largely underwhelming and underpowered, and that is not acceptable in my opinion. And just to reiterate what I said earlier in the video, a lot of that can be fixed with some creative buffs to these skill abilities, okay? If that snack time refilled ki to max and gave a little bit of HP, then it could be a great ability, and maybe Majin Coup would be worth 5 DP. But as of right now, there's no way I will be picking Majin Coup over Android 16, Android 13, the Brolys, Super Goku, Super Vegeta. Even Bergamo, in my opinion, is slightly better than Majin Coup. So, you know, that, in my opinion, is not acceptable for a DLC character that costs money. I just want to reiterate that. And, you know, I would be giving you more advice on how to play Majin Coup, but like I said, he's a very basic character. Basically, just play to the best of your abilities combo-wise, because his strings are pretty good. And his super is pretty decent. It has a good tracking, and it comes from the top, so it's hard to dodge. And that's about it, guys. Just play him like a generic character, because that's what he is. Now here we're fighting a Goku Black. I noticed a lot of people are not used to the perception change, so this guy's gonna use a lot of perception. And like I mentioned before, if you have less than 2 skill points, using perception is a risk, because any type of charge move will go through that. And as you see, a lot of people are catching my revenge counter attempts, because Majin Coup does not have a defensive stock move, so people know that I have to revenge counter to get out of stuff. I can't do anything else, and people are just ready for that. And not only that, if you were to watch my first set, I guess in Richie, you notice people know how to even exploit revenge counter. So basically, revenge counter right now has been nerfed after patch, guys. Another thing I want to mention is you want to use those you know, light smashes and charge smashes now, because momentum builds up pretty fast. So once you have momentum, your charge smashes come out quicker, and people are using them in their middle of their combos now, because after patch they have been smoothed out. So you won't accidentally input a smash, but you can use them in between your combos a lot faster. And as you see, I'm using my regen, because without a defensive stock move, you kind of need that regen for Majin Coup to stay alive and compete against ADB characters such as Goku Black here. Now, if you like this video, go ahead and like and sub, and wait for the next one. In the next one, I will be going over what changes can be made to some of these DLC characters, such as Pansy and the like. So I'll catch you on that one, and peace out.